Hey guys, tonight we delve into the peculiar and enthralling world of the Byzantine court, where a crooked fringe wasn't just a bad hair day, it could signal rebellion, demotion, or divine punishment. Picture yourself standing in the heart of this majestic empire, the air filled with the scent of incense and the soft murmur of courtly whispers. Precious mosaics glimmer around you, narrating tales as grand as those contained in the emperor's chamber. You might think you're just here for the history, but you probably won't survive this without a healthy dose of curiosity and humor. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. While you're at it, why not post your location and local time in the comments? After all, who doesn't love a little global camaraderie at bedtime? Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. Your sandals shuffle quietly on intricately laid mosaic floors as you find yourself amidst the grandeur of the Byzantine court. The golden glow from hanging oil lamps flickers against marble columns, casting long shadows that dance like ghosts from an ancient tale. You can't help but admire the elaborate attire of those around you, flowing robes of deep purples and reds, edged with gold, each garment whispering stories of power and tradition. Yet amidst all this splendor, your gaze falls on a small group gathered near the center of the room, voices hushed but intense. You edge closer, curiosity piqued. The object of their attention, a monk with a rather, shall we say, unfortunate haircut. His fringe is decidedly crooked, and in an environment where the emperor's every word is meticulously measured, even the smallest detail can ripple into a tidal wave of consequence. The monk Antonius stands awkwardly, fingers twitching nervously by his side. Historians still debate whether he had simply suffered an ill-timed barber mishap, or if there was something more deliberate at play, a subtle act of defiance, or perhaps a symbol of a greater unseen discord. You wonder if such a tiny thing could truly unnerve a court, so accustomed to grandeur and spectacle. A courtesan with bright, alert eyes leans in, murmuring softly to her companion. It's as if he's forgotten the emperor's grace entirely. Her companion nods solemnly, remarking, "Perhaps he's received an omen, or worse, succumbed to earthly temptations." You raise an eyebrow at the mention of omens. In this era, superstitions abound, and one misaligned fringe could easily tip the scales of fate. Who would have thought a haircut could spell divine disfavor? As the conversation swirls around you, you recall the famed historian Procopius once noted that the smallest slights could escalate swiftly in such a volatile environment. A mere whisper of rebellion, a glance misinterpreted, could erupt into scandal. How amusing, yet how perilous, you think, to live in a world where a monk's hairstyle might precede an upheaval. Around you, the opulence of the court contrasts sharply with the simmering tension. You imagine the scheming minds of politicos, weighing how best to leverage this peculiar situation to their advantage. Power games in the Byzantine court are like an elaborate chess match, one wrong move, and you could find yourself outmaneuvered, exiled, or worse. Perhaps it's no different from today's office politics, minus the risk of exile to a monastery in Cappadocia, of course. The sounds of court life, a faint musical performance, a scribe's quill scratching against parchment, merge into a hypnotic lullaby, pulling you deeper into the Byzantine world. You consider how the seemingly trivial can become legendary within these hallowed walls. With historians' endless debates and scholars poring over every slight, you'd be forgiven if you occasionally wondered how seriously they ever truly believed in the significance of this crooked fringe. As the monk Antonius stands amid it all, you can't help but feel a slight tug of sympathy for him. Here is a man whose fate might hang by a single snip of the shears. With dry humor, you muse whether the ancient barbershops had a satisfaction guarantee, or if they simply sent clients with crooked fringes running for their lives. Yet even as tensions ripple through the air, a small smile tugs at your lips at the absurdity of it all. A reminder that even in the grand chronicles of history, humanity's quirks and foibles remain ever present. You catch the soft strains of a lute playing in the background, its melancholic melody weaving through the air like a gentle whisper, soothing the atmosphere just a touch. With each step along the marble floors, each breath of incense-laden air, you become more than just an observer of history. You're a participant in this unfolding tapestry. The Byzantine court may be laden with intrigues and spectacles, but for now, you're immersed in its curious wonders, gently rocked by the tales and whispers that echo through the passage of time. You wander through the hallowed halls of court where the air is perfumed with intrigue and the faint scent of hair tonic. As you move, you can't help but notice the magnificence of everyone's hair. No ordinary styles. These are but deliberate choices, each strand a silent declaration of allegiance. Your eyes flit across the faces of court officials who wear their hairstyles like battle armor, parted, curled, or modestly trimmed, each reflecting their political stance within the meandering currents of court factions. You pause to admire an official with hair meticulously parted to the side, every strand appearing as though sculpted by a master artisan. Historians still debate whether such precision resulted from personal preference or was merely a concession to whichever faction held sway at the time. You imagine the hours spent before looking glasses wrought with gilded edges, trying to achieve the perfect balance between appearance and allegiance. A soft chuckle escapes your lips as you ponder the idea of hair as a political manifesto. Can you imagine changing your conditioner and suddenly finding yourself in the midst of a political upheaval? The very thought is both humorous and slightly absurd. But at court, appearances are everything, and a haircut might just be the most dangerous thing you do all week. As you glide down the corridor, the gentle tap of your feet against the polished stone floor, you notice the opulence of your surroundings. The walls are adorned with tapestries, recounting heroic battles and distant victories, their vibrant colors faded to whispers of their former glory. These walls have witnessed centuries of whispers, secrets, and perhaps a scandal or two over an ill-chosen pompadour. You overhear a pair of officials in hushed conversation. One, a gentleman sporting elegant curls that seem to defy gravity itself, nods sagely as the other speaks of a gathering at the home of a rival. You gather from their shifting tones that politics is not just in their words, but in the very atmosphere that clings to the carved stone arches above you. Hair today, gone tomorrow, you mused with a wry smile. Continuing on, you step into the sunlight, filtering through tall, narrow windows, the rays scattering across the floor like liquid gold. The courtyard is an oasis of tranquility amidst the tumult of the great palace, and you decide it's as good a place as any to pause and take stock of the chaos that passes for normalcy here. A gentle breeze whispers past, somewhat alleviating the sticky heat of the afternoon. You realize with a wry smile that even the flowers appear to lean one way or another, as if choosing sides in this grand narrative. As you rest against the cool stone bench, you watch the courtiers pass by, each clipped step carrying a multitude of intentions. Amid the lace and powdered wigs, life teems with vivacious energy, yet there's a soft underlying current of tension. You find yourself pondering the origins of such a custom. Had this hair politics been born out of necessity, or simply the idle musings of a particularly vain duke? A young courtier hair swept back into an elegant queue approaches with a practiced diplomacy that hides neither the nerves nor the excitement of youth. "Did you hear?" he murmurs theatrically, leaning in as though imparting secrets of kingdoms. "Lord Banfield's hair is different this week. He's trimmed it entirely, and rumors abound about its significance." You nod, trying to appear suitably impressed, though internally amused by the idea that fashions could hold such weight. "And what do you think?" you ask, teasing out the story further. "Oh, I'm not one to gossip," he replies with a mischievous grin that suggests otherwise. "But they say he's thrown his lot with the reformists." Quite the statement, don't you think? As he hurries off, you watch him blend back into the throng, his footsteps swallowed by laughter and distant conversation. You marvel at how something so mundane as a haircut could prompt a chain of events that ripple through the court's fabric like a dart through silk. Here, even one's personal style could tip the scales of fortune, or at least provide an evening's entertainment. The day gently begins its descent into the soft embrace of twilight, and the courtyard gradually empties, leaving only the rustle of the wind through ivy-clad walls to keep you company. You stretch, feeling the tension release from your limbs as you rise. Silhouettes dance along the ground as the lanterns glow to life, casting a warm, flickering light across your path. It's a good moment to linger, to breathe deep. The crisp evening air that bears the promise of cooler nights. You stroll back toward the labyrinthine corridors inside, musing over the unending tapestry of lives woven together in this grand mosaic. Here, even the smallest gestures are magnified into declarations, and every smile or frown is a currency in the endless exchanges of influence. You wonder if the court will remember the day when styles were nothing more than styles, before hair became another layer in the endless masquerade. In the dim light of evening, the city beyond the court walls settles into its nightly rhythm, as if relieved to slip from the burdens of daylight. You glance back at the fading horizon, allowing your mind to drift on the edge of slumber dreams, hinting at the promise of another day, new decisions, and perhaps new hair trends. The grand halls of the Emperor's palace are abuzz with whispers. You glide through gleaming corridors adorned with silk tapestries and intricate mosaics, your footsteps hushed by plush carpets stretching beneath you like an endless woven ocean. The air is thick with the scent of spices and incense, a fragrant reminder of the emperor's penchant for luxury. It's said that every strong ruler has a peculiar quirk, and for your emperor it's his hair. They're all talking about it, and you might find it amusing or bewildering that the court's fashion pendulum swings with his whims. As you pass by a pair of servants gossiping in the shadows, you catch their furtive glances and overhear whispered words. The emperor's trimmed his bangs again. One confides to the other eyes, alight with intrigue. Indeed, if the emperor decides on a straight fringe, scandalous like a child's mischievous snip with shears, soon half the palace follows his lead. And naturally, all the court rushes to mirror his image, even if it means enduring the occasional sideways glance, reminiscent of an artist's unfinished masterpiece. The murmur of activity guides you towards the court, where nobles gather, each head adorned with bangs in varying states of strategic chaos. A historical tidbit slips into your mind as if plucked from a history tome. The fervor over royal hairstyles is nothing new. Remember Henry VIII. Historians still debate whether his penchant for bejeweled hats set a similarly peculiar trend, but at least hats could be exchanged, unlike an unfortunate haircut. As you tread through the lavish hall where the light frosts everything in a golden hue, you spot Lord Bennet in an animated discussion with Lady Marigold. He's trying to spot some imaginary imperfections in her bangs through monocle-squinted eyes. The nobility's favorite pastime is apparently critiquing each other's style decisions. You almost snicker, wondering if this noble fashion frenzy might one day merit its own dedicated chapter in the annals of history. "Do you think we'll make history with this?" she whispers, bemused. You shrug, offering a faint smile. It all seems rather grandiose when you think about it. The tides of a kingdom influenced by the snip of a scissor. Fancy wigs, you muse, would be a lovely fix for a time when heads not hearts ruled the land. The corridors extend and twist, leading you into a secluded courtyard where stone benches huddle beneath the soft embrace of willow trees. Here, the vigorous palace life retreats, replaced by the gentle lull of birdsong. You exhale, letting the subtle symphony ease the tension from your shoulders. Funny how nature seems immune to such bouts of human folly, you ponder, watching leaves dance in the breeze, unbothered by royal whims. Echoes of distant laughter drift to you from a sun-drenched corner of the courtyard. It's a reminder that while hair may spark a courtly stir, merriment remains the essence of palace life. You bask in the moment, contemplating whether future historians will puzzle over today's chatter with bemusement. Perhaps they'll debate the true cause behind all those bangs. The court jester, with his nimble steps and bells tinkling, bursts through the courtyard entrance. His joy is contagious, and you can't help but grin as he tips his mismatched hat. "What's this fuss over?" he chuckles. "A few inches of hair. Grow 'em out or chop 'em off your skulls still as thick." And there you have it. Light-hearted wisdom served with a twist courtesy of someone who sees the world perpetually on the brink of hysterically funny. Just like this evening, a gentle reminder that the greatest changes often sprout from the humblest of roots. In the serene twilight hour with stars just beginning to blink awake, you let your mind wander. The endless complexities of human nature, mirrored in the most trivial of affairs, bemuse and intrigue. But tonight it's merely another bedtime tale. As you walk through the narrow cobblestone streets of the Byzantine town, the cool evening air whispers secrets of ages long past. It carries the soft clang of distant church bells and the faint scent of bread cooling on open windowsills. Among these secrets is the story of a monk, one who became a symbol of quiet rebellion during a tumultuous period known as the Iconoclastic Controversy. You probably won't survive the medieval arguments around religious imagery that crackled like a storm across this ancient land. But maybe, just maybe, you'll find the tale intriguing enough to follow. This monk's return was marked by a striking choice, a haircut that looked more like it was done by a particularly vengeful sheep than a skilled barber. In fact, you can almost picture the amused look on his face as he walked through the town's winding alleys, feeling the jagged edges of hair tickling the nape of his neck. It wasn't merely humility that drove this decision, but defiance each uneven strand, a testament to his resistance against the worship of icons which had led to his exile. The centennial debate over icon worship, sometimes called the tempest in a teacup of Byzantine ecclesiastical history, raged like a fire. You wonder if the monk, in the quiet moments of his contemplation, ever questioned his own stance. Could the icons really hold so much power over man's faith? Historians still debate whether the monk's actions were inspired by pure conviction or a stubborn streak as unruly as his new haircut. As you stroll into the town square, the setting sun bathes the ancient stones in a deep, warm glow, as if the past is inviting you to draw closer. You find yourself in front of a humble monastery, its walls touched with soil and time, welcoming in their simplicity. The monk, with his rugged halo of hair, likely stood right here, hand resting on the cool stone, considering the silent stories etched into every crevice. A nearby whisper catches your attention. Two villagers, leaning against the shaky wooden fence, trading stories of the day. "Did you hear about Brother Martin's return?" one says with a chuckle. That haircut of his could scare away crows or charm the wind straight out of a storm. The other replies, winking. Their laughter is a soft echo across the square, drifting like leaves in the autumn breeze. You take a deep breath, the earthy scent of the monastery mingling with lingering beeswax and candle smoke, a reminder of prayers murmured in quiet corners. The monk's defiance wasn't loud or brazen like the bellows of a town crier, but subtle, like a slant of light through a high window, persistent, unwavering. Walking alongside the monk's imagined path, you feel a kinship with his spirit, an appreciation for the power of small gestures. The world he lived in was one where the emperor's edicts could dictate the divine and the mundane alike. Yet here he was, a single thread in the human tapestry, choosing his own way to defy the loom. One might question the sanity of arguing over icons, a bit like debating the merits of using honey versus jam in your morning porridge. Yet these debates shaped empires, and the monk with his jagged locks stood squarely at the heart of it, a gentle reminder that sometimes simple acts of rebellion are the most enduring. As the sky deepens to a rich indigo, a single star twinkles above, as if agreeing with the monk's quiet stand. You sit on a low stone bench, feeling the day's warmth seeping into your bones. Your mind drifts, picturing the monk settling in after a long journey, running a hand through his jagged hair with a satisfied smile. How many hearts might he have stirred by simply showing that even a monk could challenge the norms? Perhaps this is the beauty of history. Even the smallest actions can shine like beacons of change. As a gentle breeze rustles through the trees, whispering its own stories, you close your eyes, letting the sound envelop you like an embrace from the past, urging you to stand firm in your beliefs' ragged edges and all. You stand quietly in a grand hall, the scent of incense drifting softly on the air, mingling with distant echoes of laughter and clinking goblets. Rich tapestries woven with stories of heroes and empires drape the stone walls around you. Your eyes are drawn to a figure seated under the dim glow of candlelight, an emperor with hair that mirrors none other. Underneath a glittering diadem, his hair is tightly bound, each strand meticulously tucked into place. You can't help but think this hairstyle takes more patience than a cat tolerating a bath. You wonder idly, does the way an emperor styles his hair speak of his rule? Historians certainly ponder this, some arguing that a tightly bound coif suggests a nature of control and discipline. Soldiers follow this ruler not just for his crown, but for the promise of order that his appearance whispers. Nearby, another figure captures your attention, an emperor whose locks flow unbound beneath his diadem. This hair dances with the breeze as he strolls poet more than bureaucrat. You find yourself amused by the thought that his hair might inspire poets, or at least provide some shade in the midday sun. Someone whispers beside you, "Ah, do you see the emperor's hair is like the wings of Hermes?" The imagery makes you chuckle quietly a bit. Whimsical. Yes, but it paints a picture, doesn't it? The room falls into a relaxed silence, the kind that invites stories to unravel. You take this pause to reflect on a detail that surprises many. In some dynasties, the emperor's barber could hold more power than a court advisor. After all, they not only shaped the emperor's public visage, but also gained trust by wielding blades so near the royal neck. A breeze sways the heavy curtain over the window, and you can hear the soft rustle of leaves outside, a reminder of the world beyond this ornate chamber. You exhale slowly, shoulders easing, as you imagine life in that outside world, freed from courtly expectations, where a hair out of place wouldn't result in 100 whispered conspiracies. Someone begins to speak, a gentle voice recounting an old tale. Once, during the reign of, well, it's still debated which emperor it was, she trails off, drawing you deeper into the cozy warmth of historical uncertainty. It's like wrapping up in a blanket on a chilly night. The gentle mystery, letting your imagination ponder. And then there's the story of the emperor, who, despite his courtly pressures, kept his hair as wild and untamed as a sea in storm. When questioned about it, he'd smile wryly, claiming each wayward strand to be a river of thought spilling over his mind. You imagine the court meetings stretching longer as dignitaries try to parse double meanings from everything, even hairstyle choices. You glance around, capturing snippets of conversations that float by. You catch a jest, perhaps, crafted by one of the jesters themselves. If only we poured half as much care into statecraft as we do hairdos, we'd rule the world. It's delivered in good humor with a wink, but echoes with a certain truth. You get lost for a moment in your own thoughts, weaving fiction with fragments of history. The atmosphere here, with its intermingling scents and soft murmurs, is calming. You imagine the lives these emperors lead, the weight of a diadem, balanced precariously with the elegance of their hair. Could it be possible that the hair held more weight than the crown itself? The thought sits bun-like in your mind, a silly, delicious idea that leaves you smiling to yourself. Some emperors commanded with iron fists when hair was as tight as the knight's own grip. Others, in contrast, embraced the ocean of dreams, their hair a flowing reflection of their openness, their words meandering like a slow river through valleys of diplomacy. As the evening stretches its tendrils across the sky, you close your eyes for a moment, allowing the rich history and light humor to settle within. The cadence of storytelling moves like a gentle lullaby through the room, inviting you to relax and unwind. There's an innate feeling of tranquility here, and you breathe in deeply, letting the calm of the moment seep into your bones. You stretch your limbs slightly as you consider the harmonious blend of hair history and hypnosis that tonight's tale offers. Let the legacy of emperors and their cherished crowns soothe your mind as moonlight dances silently across polished floors, guiding you softly towards the edge of dreams. Caught in a swirl of dust and vibrant market noise, you find yourself standing at the edge of the town square, a place bustling with the energy of merchants and locals alike. Before you is a grim spectacle you've not seen before. It's hard not to notice the stark contrast between the vibrant life around you and the sober event at its center, where a man sits on a raised platform, his head visibly bowed. His regal bearing even now does little to disguise the fact that he once wore the crown of a prince or the decorated cloak of a celebrated general. What you're witnessing is a public stripping of dignity, one of those peculiar customs this place holds dear. You feel an odd mix of fascination and unease watching as a barber approaches with a dull razor that's seen better days. It's hard not to think about the rumors. You wouldn't survive this. A local might tease you about enduring a similar public shaming. Historians tell of mighty figures reduced to mere whispers through gestures like this, cutting ties and hair with their past glories. Surely it's a reminder of how quickly fortunes can change. You take a mental note of the barber's ceremonial movements, deliberate and symbolic in their precision, despite the roughness of his tools. Nearby, a sprinkle of curious onlookers murmur among themselves, their whispers like the breeze rustling through the leaves. You might chuckle at the irony of it all, how a man who once swung swords is now at the mercy of shears. You imagine a scene from ages past where emperors themselves might have witnessed similar ceremonies, though they probably had better seating. Your gaze drifts upward to the overcast sky, imagining stories hidden within the clouds, stories of power, ambition, and the inevitable tumble from grace. It's hard not to reflect on the transient nature of status, much like the fleeting weather patterns above. The barber begins his task snipping clumsily, a lock of hair spiraling to the ground, where children mock collect it as a treasure. There's an air of finality in every snip, each strand severed a reminder of broken allegiances and severed ties. It's then you wonder if this method of silent communication was ever truly effective. Some scholars ponder whether these visual messages were indeed impactful or simply part of ceremonial pomp, a kind of currency in the marketplace of reputation. You note the delicate power balance in this ritual, enough to sway public perceptions without uttering a single word. You shift your attention back to the central figure who sits stoic and resigned. You ponder what thoughts chase through his mind, memories of victory parades, or warm embraces from old allies turned foes now swirling like the dust around your feet. A child's laughter breaks your reverie, bringing you back to the present. You smile at the resilience of youth, impervious to the somber lessons of adult misfortune. You catch a glimpse of a vendor offering honey cakes nearby, their sweet aroma, a reminder of life's simple pleasures amidst such weighty moments. The crowd, sensing the ritual nearing completion, begins to scatter their gossip, trailing like ripples on water. You overhear snippets of debate. Did this man fall from grace? Or was he merely a pawn in a grander game? It seems even now the exact nature of many historical disgraces is the subject of lively speculation and debate. Few narratives remain undistorted as stories pass from one tongue to another. The scene before you, a human tapestry woven tightly with pride, disgrace, and the passage of time leaves you thoughtful. It's a tapestry you realize is still being woven, each thread vital to the broader narrative of human ambition and failure. You stroll away from the cooling shadows cast by the afternoon sun, the bustling life of the market reclaiming your senses. Somewhere behind the curtain of daily routines, stories like this unfold, quietly shaping destinies. As the sun dips gently below the horizon, you wonder how many stories are left untold in this town, secrets sealed with nothing more than a rough cut and a silence that speaks volumes. With the day's colors fading, you exhale a slow breath, savoring the taste of the evening air. You walk away, feeling the day's events shadow your steps, yet simultaneously grounded by their timeless lesson, much like the cobblestone roads worn smooth by years of tread and toil. It's calming to think that while the players and settings change, the essence of human drama remains curiously constant, weaving its way into the tapestry of all our lives. Stepping into the bustling atmosphere of the royal courtyard, you are greeted by a scene of lively commerce beneath a cloud-streaked sky. The palace grounds resonate with the low chatter of servants and the soft hum of distant city life. But here in the shaded corner of the courtyard, under the soothing canopy of a grand old cedar, you find the palace barber's humble abode. A small room warm and intimate, where the magic of transforming hair takes place. The importance of your visit sits heavily upon your shoulders, for you are about to engage in a task fraught with unforeseen perils. The art of trimming the hair of nobility is not merely a matter of style, but a precarious dance of political alignment. With each careful snip, you must navigate the treacherous waters of favor and disfavor. Your hands are steady, yet within them lies the power to shape more than mere hairstyles, perhaps the future of ministers and courtiers themselves. You notice the slight scent of lavender oil lingering in the air, mingling with the musky aroma of old leather from the barber's worn stool. There's a comforting routine to the rhythmic combing and the snipping of scissor sounds that almost lull you into a trance as you work. Historians still debate whether the impact of a barber's handwork genuinely affected the tides of power, or if it was simply a fanciful tale spun by generations sharing secrets in the palace kitchens. Yet the stories persist. One barber was exiled to the farthest reaches of the kingdom for a careless error that resulted in a crooked sideburn, interpreted as an insult to the king's wisdom. You imagine him now surrounded by windswept hills, eyebrows raised in disbelief at his far-off fate. The chair in front of you begins to fill as the day's appointments start. A young noble sits down, their nerves as palpable as the rustling leaves outside. With a reassuring smile, you begin. Your cutting prowess is rumored to be legendary. They quip a hint of nerves, breaking through their formal facade. You chuckle softly, relieved at the levity. Don't worry, you assure them with a glint of mischief. I've only sent 1 or 2 people into exile this year. As you work, precision and gentleness guide your hands, ensuring each cut falls exactly in line where intended. The expectation is high, and the attention to detail is paramount. You have heard stories of how noblemen and women would scrutinize each other's appearances at court, searching for hidden messages in fashion. A strand of hair out of place, potentially an omen or scandal waiting to unravel. The palace windows, tall and elegant, allow shafts of mellow afternoon light to pool onto the floor, casting gentle patterns that dance as the breeze shifts the branches outside. This is your domain, where the blend of shadow and light reflects the delicate balance you maintain in both art and diplomacy. Amidst your careful work, you can't help but ponder if barbers of the past ever found themselves embroiled in the intricate web of palace intrigues. Perhaps one day you'll be lauded in the wings of history as a master of both grooming and courtly strategy. Or maybe, like many before, your contributions will merely whisper through the annals, a quiet testament to the nuanced roles that weave the rich tapestry of the palace. You think all this careful artistry will earn you a statue someday? A voice teases, breaking your reverie. It's your colleague Miriam, sweeping up stray locks with her ever-present broom. She winks playfully, and you retort with mock seriousness. Only if they use the finest marble and a life-sized pair of shears. As the day wanes and the sun begins its slow descent, turning the light warm and golden, you tidy up your station. There's a comfort in knowing that, as much as history and politics swirl outside these walls, within them lies a sense of control and rhythm. It's not just hair you sculpt, it's the intangible bonds of trust and artistry. And perhaps, Most importantly, amidst the palace whispers and regal endeavors, you find peace in this small corner of the world, a place where stories are born, one cut at a time. Tomorrow, as you stand once more beneath the calming gaze of the old cedar, you'll continue this silent dialogue, one that connects you with those who came before weaving your place into the ever-turning wheel of history. Your journey takes you into the dimly lit corridors of Byzantine history, where the air is filled with the faint aroma of incense and the soft whisper of past intrigues. You wander through a world where icons are not just religious symbols, but battlegrounds of belief. In this hushed setting, your footsteps echo softly against the ancient stone floors, and the walls seem to carry the weight of countless debates and inner reflections. The tension of the icon debates vibrates subtly through the air, creating a sense of anticipation around every corner. Your mind drifts to the peculiar ways people expressed their allegiance during this tempestuous time. The iconoclast controversy wasn't only about the visible destruction or defense of icons, it extended to the subtle signals, like the silent language of hairstyle. You chuckle quietly at the idea that a haircut could be a declaration of faith and rebellion, certainly more permanent than a t-shirt slogan. As you weave through the narrative, you notice the hairstyles, those quiet codes that adorned the heads of the pious or the defiant. Perhaps you ponder what message your current hairdo sends out into the world. Would you be pulling for the iconodals with their clipped, mournful cuts? Or would the wild, unkept freedom of the iconoclasts be more your style? In the flickering torchlight, you imagine an iconodule monk, his hair cropped short in a somber act of mourning. Mourning not only for the icons being torn down, but for a tradition under threat, a worldview said to be worth every strand of hair shorn. It's a neat haircut, efficient and earnest like a faithful shepherd, tending to his flock with unfaltering devotion. You exhale softly, wondering if you'd have the courage to take up the scissors. Historians still debate whether these haircuts were universally practiced or more of a poetic exaggeration. But as the cool breeze winds around you, maybe it doesn't really matter. Here's a secret. Sometimes the symbolism is stronger than the scissors. On the opposite side of the debate, making sure not to cut themselves out of the narrative, are the iconoclasts. In rejecting icons, they took to letting their locks run free wild as the untamed fields outside city walls. You can almost feel the sun warming their shoulders, perhaps a little too long, under the blazing sky, leaving them tangled and fierce. The iconoclasts grew their hair in a defiant refusal of vanity, a rejection of earthly adornments. It's the sort of hairstyle that fits with their vision of an unadulterated spirituality, one not dressed up in gold and halo, nor confined in religious portraits. You're left to wonder if deep down they enjoyed the reckless mess of it all, like a small rebellion that feels a bit like freedom. Walking through the shadows, you reflect on how appearances speak volumes, more than words sometimes. Like a chess player's silent strategy, a modest monk or a rampant zealot might tell an entire story with how they manage their hair. You smile thinking of how today's arguments rarely involve a pair of scissors unless you're debating which dreadful haircut will define a decade. The glow of an oil lamp lights up your path, as you cross a quiet courtyard. Here the tranquility is only broken by the soft chirp of a hidden cricket, its song weaving through the gentle rustle of leaves. It's peaceful now, but you imagine the debates and disputes that once echoed off these walls as theologians and laypeople, each with their silent symbols, navigated the lively and often fiery clash of their time. You step softly again, feeling the cool stone beneath your feet. And as you walk through the corridors of history, you can't help but wonder at the subtlety of their quiet codes. Somehow, the idea of using hair to express such profound beliefs is both humorous and poignant, a tender detail amid the grandiosity of the iconoclast controversy. It's a reminder that history is woven from the grand and the personal, the profound and the playful. As you move through the story, almost guided by the whispers of the past, you imagine the hushed conversations, the silent messages passed with a nod here, a self-conscious touch of the hair there. In a world without our current gadgets, it's surprisingly comforting to know that even then people found ways to express their most deeply held beliefs. And as you wander on, their silent voices become a part of your own dreams, guiding you gently towards rest. The dim light of early evening filters gently through the stained glass windows of the cathedral, casting colorful shadows that dance faintly over the stone floor. The scent of incense lingers in the air, a subtle reminder of the solemn ceremonies that have taken place here over many years. You find yourself drawn to the quiet reverence of this sacred place, a space where history seems to whisper from every corner. It is here that you learn of an unusual decree issued by a group of bishops who sought to instill moral discipline among the nobles. In the cool stillness, a soft voice echoes, relaying a tale of days past. You're told of nobles, those dazzling figures of power and wealth, who once found themselves subjected to an odd form of penance. These individuals, who as a result of their misdeeds had fallen out of favor with the church, were instructed to go without trimming their hair for a full season. To witness these proud figures' hair unruly and unkempt was akin to seeing an unwritten confession of their moral lapse. It's said that more than a few of these nobles grumbled about their new shaggy appearance being unsuitable for courtly gatherings. Imagine the awkward winks and sly remarks from those who had managed to stay in the bishop's good graces. As you saunter under the vaulted arches, your footsteps echo, quietly blend in with the ethereal rustle of distant robes. You pause to wonder if this hair-growing mandate truly had the intended spiritual effect, or if it merely became a new fashion trend among those too stubborn to feel contrition. Historians still debate whether the nobles genuinely repented, or if they simply saw this as a temporary inconvenience, a bad hair season quite literally. The bishop who orchestrated this hairy penance was thought to have an unwavering belief in visible symbols of penance. With a dry chuckle, you envision him insisting, if their hair looks wild and unkempt, perhaps their souls will too find their way back to order. Here in the cathedral, the concept seems almost poetic, a visual metaphor wrapped in the tangled locks of defiant nobility. Your gaze drifts over to a carved wooden pew, where a somber old gentleman, perhaps a contemporary storyteller, sits with a knowing smile. He catches your eye and gestures to the frescoes above, hinting with a whisper, "Strange are the ways chosen to appease one's conscience, yes, but hey, it's certainly less painful than other forms of medieval discipline. No blood, just hair." You can't help but snicker at his humor, a touch of levity in this world of historical gravitas. The age-old stones beneath your feet evoke a comforting sense of continuity. Here, amidst these hallowed walls, you feel a part of the long, winding history, and you wonder about the lives of those nobles. Did their hair continue to grow unruly, marked by the passage of time, tangled with the whispers of change and repentance? Or did they secretly relish the freedom such wildness afforded them, a hidden rebellion beneath their somber expressions during council meetings? As you move from shadow to light, the quietude of the cathedral mingles with your thoughts, each step a testament to the tales and traditions whispered from one generation to the next. The very texture of the stone, imbued with centuries of prayers and whispers, seems to hum softly with echoes of ancient decisions and symbols. You draw in a slow breath, savoring the moment, appreciating the curious intersection of faith and discipline. Perhaps you muse these acts of penance were merely the Church's attempt to reach into the daily lives of its followers in tangible ways, weaving its influence into the very fabric of appearance and custom. The bishop's curious choice of unenforced hairstyling has since evolved each tale, unfolding quietly within corridors less concerned with grandeur than with the simple act of recording such eccentrics. As you follow the path of those ancient nobles, a spark of understanding flickers. You too are part of this inexhaustible chain of history, writing your own ephemeral lines in the old book of time. Finally, as the ambient light dims further, your eyes grow heavy with the weight of history told through the lens of personal transformation, a gentle reminder that even the simplest acts may become symbols of larger unseen tides. You can't help but chuckle at the contemplation. And though your own hair remains untroubled by such commands, this glimpse into the past provides unexpected amusement. With one last look towards the high vaulted ceiling, you allow the sights and sounds of this bygone era to lull you into a tranquil sense of wonder. Wherever they rest now, these storied and unkempt nobles smile knowingly. You stand in the midst of a bustling encampment where the air hums gently with the rustling of fabric and the soft, unending murmurs of soldiers at rest. The sun hovers low on the horizon, casting long shadows over rows of tents that seem to exhale quiet relief after a day of drills and marching. Close by, a cracked leather boot lightly nudges a pebble, reminding you that this ground has been tread by many feet over countless days and nights. As you wander, you notice the recruits lined up, in anticipation, their eyes casting furtive, hopeful glances towards their commanders. The air around them is filled with the crisp, unmistakable scent of anticipation that comes just before a haircut. You pause, amused at the thought. Imagine having your hair cropped short as a sign of uniformity, as if to say, "Welcome to the ranks. Hope you like matching ear lengths." Yet some of these young men look almost proud as the clippers buzz through their hair, their shorn locks falling like little blackbirds scattered on the compacted earth. But not everyone is treated with the same utilitarian shearing. A slight chuckle escapes you as you catch sight of a commander who oversees the less than businesslike approach of a few select haircuts. Their jobs are more than just snip-snap chores. Oh no, these trims are elaborate, intricate, almost ceremonial in their precision. You can't help but think lucky them, or perhaps is it luck? Their haircuts speak volumes without a single strand out of place, signaling favor, or perhaps status that words rarely encapsulate. You move a little closer within earshot, yet comfortably inconspicuous, and hear the whispered theory circulating among the recruits. One soldier leans towards another fabric, whispering against fabric. This guy gets the royal treatment, he mutters, eyes flicking towards a fellow recruit whose hair is now something of a masterpiece. The response is a low, jocular, yeah. Historians might never figure out why style became a symbol of power. What's next? Getting promoted by the shine of your boots. You smile softly, noting the camaraderie through light-hearted banter even in the face of structured hierarchy. As you breathe deeply, letting the cool evening air ease the day's tensions, you reflect on how even the simplest of acts like cutting hair can hold layers of meaning. It's history's little rituals, wrapped in personal stories and subtle rebellion. The thought is as complex as the haircuts themselves, and as the line shuffles onward, each recruit, leaving with a new semblance of unity, you wonder about the decisions made by those in command. Did they find hidden messages in each snip, or was it a whim, an indulgence in artistry amid the chaos? The answers are obscured by time tucked away in the folds of years like an unresolved conversation. The last rays of sunlight slip silently below the horizon, painting the sky with hues that defy simplicity: rose gold and lavender, mingling like watercolor poured in a glass. It is in this serenity you find yourself taking one more peaceful glance over the camp. Tomorrow will come much like today, full of challenges and subtle victories, marked by little rituals that make life remarkably human amidst the discipline of military life. And as quiet descends, you know the story will continue to unravel, just as the night's darkness gently enfolds the camp, like a reassuring whisper to sleep and dream. In the dim afterglow of a fading sun, you find yourself wandering through the bustling marketplaces of ancient Rome, where merchants advertise their colorful wares with enthusiastic shouts. The scent of fresh bread mingles with spices from distant lands, creating a symphony of aromas that wrap around you like a warm blanket. You pause to watch a street performer, juggling his movements so fluid, it seems he's been doing this since the beginning of time. As you continue on the cobblestone path, the laughter of children echoes around you, caught up in their games, blissfully unaware of the complex world that swirls around them. As you turn a corner, you're greeted by the sight of the Forum, its grand columns reaching toward the heavens. You feel the stone beneath your feet, grounding you to this monumental place where history unfolds each day. It's a spectacle of power and politics, and here you sense whispers of ambition and intrigue mingling like shadows. A lively debate catches your ear a group of senators clustered under a portico. They're discussing the latest scandal voices, barely lowering to conspiratorial tones. It seems one of their own has been caught sporting a new hairstyle, a blend of golden curls that couldn't possibly be his own. The senator in question, standing in the midst of them all, waves his hand dismissively, claiming it's simply the result of many a long afternoon basking in the unforgiving Roman sun. Sun-bleached, he insists with a grin, as confident as a charioteer, moments before a race. Yet as you watch their reactions, it's clear few, if any, are convinced by his claim. Listening to the incredulous whispers around you, you can't help but laugh a warm chuckle that bubbles up despite your best attempts to contain it. The senator's explanation is as believable as a cooked fish soon swimming away, and you wonder how anyone could think this would work. This scandal has become the talk of the town, drawing attention away from the more serious matters of governance. At least for now. You linger a little longer, absorbing the ambiance, the sensation of history in the making. You notice a historian nearby scribbling notes with a quill upon a scroll. He seems unsure, hesitating over each word, capturing the event for posterity. Will future generations see this folly as an example of vanity, or of the old adage that all publicity is good publicity? Historians, still debate the influence such seemingly frivolous events had on the politics of the time. As you wander away from the crowd, the air grows cooler, a foretelling of the coming night. You reflect on the whimsical nature of these times, a society so grand, yet so given to charms and follies. The scandal over dyed curls may fade, but tonight's talk will carry the heart of Rome through the taverns and into the dreams of its curious inhabitants. Passing through an arch, lined with statues of illustrious forebears, you notice one with particularly elaborate hair, perhaps signifying rank, or maybe just another passing style of a bygone era. You muse on how each age has its quirks and wonders if centuries from now, someone will puzzle over the things you take for granted. Venturing forth, the chatter of the forum fades behind you, replaced by the gentle rustle of olive trees swaying in a gentle breeze. These trees have witnessed the ebb and flow of empires, and like you have stories to tell. But for now, they stand as silent sentinels watching over the twilight. As dusk cloaks the city, the soft glow of oil lamps appears in windows, inviting you to rest. The world slowly quiets, bidding the day's end gently to the night. You exhale deeply, shoulders relaxing as you walk along the narrow path, a small trail illuminated by moonlight. The moon, it seems, winks knowingly, as if suggesting that tomorrow will bring its own stories, the weighty and the light-hearted in equal measure. And so the night envelopes you in its embrace, soothing in its unfaltering steadiness, as if to say that while scandals may rise and fall, the essence of life, its jokes, its gentle absurdities, its enduring legacies endures beyond the fleeting fashions and fads. As you find a quiet corner to rest and reflect, the world outside carries on in its insistent, steady rhythm, ready to face the whims of another day, and perhaps even more flamboyant curls. You feel the chill creeping up the back of your neck once more as you wander near the ancient stone walls of a monastery perched high in the mountains. The thin air swirls around you, tinged with the crispness of the altitude. Your footsteps are a soft echo across the courtyard, which is framed by towering peaks that seem to almost admire their own reflection in the clouds. The wind whispers stories of centuries past, tales of monks who once walked these same paths, their robes fluttering with every gust. You find yourself wondering what it would have been like to live here in exile from worldly clamors, separated by both physical barriers and the sanctity of silence. Then again, in your cozy pajamas, feeling the icy breeze poking fun at your unshielded ears, you start to understand why some of those monks opted for rather unorthodox hairstyles. In a time long ago, not every decision was political, not even among those who took vows of simplicity and detachment. Some monks, you discover, took to growing thick bangs that hung low over their foreheads, a practical solution to the gnawing cold inherent to their elevated life. If you've ever thought a haircut was bold, try choosing one conventionally mistaken as arrogance just to keep your forehead warm. Historians still debate whether these bangs were an outright rebellion against certain monastic codes or just a literal fringe benefit. You can't help but smile at the idea of monks having debates with combs in one hand and hairstyling guidelines in the other. As this imagery tickles your imagination, you recall the comforting run of your own fingers through your hair, a subconscious act, more meaningful in this wintry haven. You meander through the echoes of this stone-clad fortress where vows were spoken with the weight of mountains. Warmth was a rare commodity here, and you feel a connection to those who found comfort not solely in fires, but in the foresight, or perhaps forehead sight, of unruly bangs. Nearby, the gentle swoosh of fabric draws your attention to a group of monks gathered under a canopy of time-worn branches, discussing in hushed tones the scriptures that have weathered more winters than you can imagine. Rendered in twilight, the cloistered garden bounds off the walls with muted shades of ancient greens and browns. You reach out and let the frosted leaves tickle your senses as your breath disperses in the chilled air like a smoke signal to nowhere. You can't help but wonder if these gatherings ever focused on other times when hair made headlines. But then you're reassured by the tranquil air that today's news would have to compete with some pretty compelling chants. You pause to gaze at the wooden doors of the scriptorium, their surfaces etched with scenes from holy texts. One monk, noticing your curiosity, stops beside you. His beard frosted like the morning dew, he nods with a gentle wisdom. The stories we write, like the hairs we grow, both reflect the seasons of our being. You chuckle softly to yourself, unsure if he's speaking metaphorically or merely offering hair advice. Inspired by this thought, you wonder if modern hairstyles could tell tales of bold independence, or perhaps just an errant escapade during a windy day. Suddenly you envision a monk attempting to explain their choice of haircut to another, insisting with an exasperated laugh. It's all about warmth, trust me. As dusk deepens, you witness the monks retreat to their quarters, each with a stride that quietly echoes ancient rituals. The courtyard empties, except for the stories clinging to the stone walls, whispering to you about the layers of decisions, myths, and weather changes that led to expressions as humble yet profound as the fringe of a monk's brow. You let out a slow, steady breath, shoulders softening against the cool stone, as the monastery's history wraps around you like a well-loved blanket. In this moment, with the mountains standing vigil, you are left to muse about those unexpected symmetries of life that echo through time. The unexpected warmth of hair grown out of necessity, humility mistaken for hubris, and the enduring humor concealed in each anachronistic slice of human experience. As you cast one last look at the landscape of stone and memory clouds, embrace the peaks, and you remember again why you're here, seeking warmth in knowledge that intertwines the past with your present, allowing gentle laughter to follow wherever you tread on this storied journey. You are nestled in the heart of a bustling medieval village. The cobblestone streets crunch softly underfoot as you walk past rows of quaint, timber-framed houses with thatched roofs. There's a touch of dew in the air, and the distant clatter of hooves on stone echoes around you. You feel an odd comfort in this place, a world far removed from yours, yet oddly familiar in its simplicity and connection to the land. As you approach a gathering near a small chapel, you notice women in mournful black gowns, fringes of lace peeking at their hems as they move. Their hair, regardless of age, is cut unusually short, framing their faces with a raw honesty that seems to mirror their somber expressions. This is a time when a woman's hair was her crowning glory, yet here they are bare and blunt. The severity of it all makes you wonder how deeply the customs of mourning shape lives. You overhear a conversation between two women near you. "Maria, how long will you keep your hair that way?" One asks softly, her eyes trailing over the other's stark haircut. Maria shrugs lightly, the kind that suggests she finds her answer neither here nor there. "Oh, it's just simpler this way. Besides, who has the time for all that plaiting anymore?" You can almost feel the weight of their history in the inflection of her voice, the memories that linger in every word. It's then you remember a curious fact. Historical records note that women often maintained short hair as a rebellion of sorts, a gentle defiance against expectations. You wonder if Maria feels a similar spark of resistance, or if it's really just about the practicality of a quick morning routine. Stepping away from the conversation, you find yourself watching a young girl, possibly her daughter, weaving clover chains in the grass nearby, blissfully oblivious to the world of adult burdens. A cool breeze teases the tendrils around her face, and for a moment, all the world's worries seem as inconsequential as a whispering wind. But there's an odd flicker of debate in your memory. Historians still debate whether the persistence of such fashion was an unconscious societal drift or a deliberate act of silent rebellion. The thought intrigues you as you survey the girl. Perhaps she will grow to see her youth's symbols transform into tokens of resistance, or maybe she'll simply revel in the simplicity of her clipped strands. You drift down the path, imagining yourself in their shoes, or rather wooden clogs. You picture shedding layers of expectation and stepping into a state of comforting anonymity. The architectural remnants around you, those sturdy timber posts and linen-draped windows, Whisper stories of gratitude for the uncomplicated life, a life in which simplicity reigns and the heart quietly seeks its own rhythms, unfettered by excess. Here, amid the rustic frames of the village, you ponder another implausible thought amidst your sleep-driven musings. Did they ever think that a future society might examine their customs this closely? Or did they trust their traditions would dissolve as naturally as footprints in the sand? You pass by the village blacksmith shop. The ringing of metal on metal is rhythmic, almost soothing in its echo against your thoughts. Such a sound must have been a comfort to them, the resonance of labor that reverberated through their days. In this gentle cacophony, you sense a reminder that even in grief, or perhaps rebellion, life moves onward with its own steady rhythm. The sky begins to blush with early evening hues as you meander past an herb garden. Lavender and rosemary linger sweetly in the air, grounding you with their earthy embrace amidst the fading light. A soft smile creeps over your lips at the thought that no matter what times you might find yourself in the scent of old-world apothecaries, always manages to soothe the senses. With evening settling, its calm hand on the village shadows stretched like the gentle yawn of day into night. The women have begun to disperse, returning to their various hearths and homes. Their short-haired silhouettes, once shocking, meld into symbols of quiet dignity against the twilight. Those layers of loss and liberation are left hanging in the air like the last notes of a lullaby fading into restful silence. You nestle into this bracing yet tender world. The simplicity of it seeps under your skin, bringing an unexpected ease, a drowsy kind of acceptance. And though the why or how of their choices may linger unanswered, you realize that sometimes the simplest tales are those that leave you with the most to dream about. And as you wander back to find your place of rest, in this historic reverie, you exhale contentedly, knowing that somewhere in the past, the soft echoes of women's laughter, or perhaps resistance, carry on, the rhythms of the ever-beckoning night. You find yourself wandering through the elaborate halls of a grand palace, a place both imposing and filled with whispered secrets. The air is thick with the scent of incense blending with the distant echoes of diplomatic conversations in languages you might never hear again. Velvet curtains billow gently by the open windows, and the ornate chandeliers above cast a warm golden glow over the polished marble floors. You feel a little like an unsuspected observer in a play, where each character holds a rumor or revelation of their own. In this intricate court, it's almost amusing to think how something as simple as hairstyles could hold so much significance. And yet, this is where you find yourself amidst foreign ambassadors, diplomats dressed in richly embroidered silks, who occasionally pause to convene and quietly compare notes. You watch as they glance over at courtiers, turning their attention to the latest coiffure trends, their interest as earnest as if they were mapping out the shifting tides of political power. You'd never have thought a fringe could speak volumes, but here you are questioning how often your own appearance betrayed your own little moods. The significance is palpable in the subtlety of their curiosity, like a silent game of chess where each movement carries weight beyond its surface. The court tonight is alive not only with the vibrant whirl of richly hued silks, but with a peculiar energy surrounding the fringes of those wandering within it. You notice that almost en masse hundreds of courtiers have taken to donning a short fringe that wasn't seen just a month ago. You ponder at the reason. Historians today still debate whether this sudden change was merely a fashion trend or a cryptic signal that the rulers governing was under strain. After all, hairstyles speak more than words at such occasions where discretion is a prized asset. Your eyes drift to a nearby window where the pale moonlight kisses the courtyard. There, beneath the crumbling red walls, ambassadors chat softly their shadows, performing a delicate dance against the cobblestones. You hear snippets of conversation murmurs about rising tensions, the casual yet meaningful arch of a single brow in response. These diplomats have long learned to read between the lines, and tonight the courts have given them quite the script to translate. As you wander through this tableau, you can't help but find a certain whimsy in the thought. You imagine if modern board meetings were this entertaining, with CEOs discreetly analyzing hairstyles as an index of company morale. Perhaps you'd best keep that thought to yourself, lest it become the next bizarre office trend. Despite the gravity of the situation, the whispers of political maneuvering hard at work, you find peace in the surroundings. There's a soft murmur of laughter from a nearby alcove, punctuated by hoots of understanding rather than derision. Courtiers gather in small clusters, their conversations a mixture of light-hearted banter and concerned whispers. At a distance, you notice a group of musicians softly playing lutes and flutes, their music weaving a soothing backdrop to the hum of activity. The melody blends seamlessly with the sounds of gentle footsteps and the rustle of silk, creating a lullaby as ancient as the stone walls surrounding you. With each step through the palace, you're drawn deeper into a world caught in the delicate balance between peace and upheaval. And as you pause in one of the grand halls, your gaze is drawn to a grand tapestry, brightly colored threads, subtly showcasing a historical battle, interwoven with symbols of peace. You muse how such craftsmanship could capture both conflict and harmony within a single frame, like the brazen mix of court diplomacy dancing around you. A soft chuckle escapes you as you turn away, imagining how the palace staff must endure a similar sense of bewilderment, trying to decode what each shift in hairstyle might signify. You picture them in their quarters, giggling over teacups at their own attempts at political interpretation. What is the fringe of the day, you wonder? A rebellious curl for dissent, perhaps, or a sleek bun for moments of unity. As the evening stretches into night, a few stars begin to twinkle above, peeking through the vast stained glass windows of the grand hall. You find comfort in those tiny distant lights, a reminder of constancy amid the swirling changes beneath them. A stately clock tolls softly from somewhere deep within the palace, each chime deliberate yet gentle. You feel your shoulders relax your mind, letting go of any lingering tension, as if coaxed into calm by the rhythmic passing of time itself. Your journey through the marvelous gallery of courtly whispers and sartorial signals has reached a gentle ebb. You exhale quietly, leaning against one of the pillars, allowing the subtle beauty of the moment to sink in. The soothing hum of conversation blended with the tranquil melodies, drifting from unseen chambers, invites your thoughts to drift peacefully alongside them. Here, within these hallowed walls, you've found traces of history wrapped in personal intrigue. Tomorrow the court might decide to change once more, choosing another expression of style to signify some intricate complexity an insider's joke you're now privy to. But for tonight, you revel in the stillness, cherishing the simple yet profound connection you've forged with this singular slice of the past. In this world, poetry is lethal, and hairstyles intriguing weapons. As you settle in, you can't help but realize, if you don't watch your back in these circles, the poets might turn your hair into public satire. You're treading lightly here, but that's the thrilling part, to engage in the art that forges destinies with flawless metaphor, or suffer a verse's sting. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Share your location and local time with us. It's always fascinating to see where our journey reaches. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum. And let's ease into tonight's journey together. You find yourself observing a gathering of refined elites, encircled by gilded columns and lush tapestries portraying mythical exploits. The poets, the orchestrators of these salons, are adorned with tunics, the ripples of which catch the candlelight in playful patterns. You're drawn by the chorus of playful critiques and elaborate praises that fill the room. A challenger stands a scroll unfurling in his grasp, and he delivers an epic comparison between a rival noble's hair and an inanimate cleaning tool. The reaction is instantaneous. The room erupts in approving laughter, some barely stifling their amusement behind embroidered fans. You find yourself chuckling, two thoughts ruminating the absurdity of reducing grand political rivalry to the angle of someone's hair draws you in unexpectedly. It's a peculiar tactic, amusing to see seriousness turned on its head, like watching a statesman slip on a banana peel. Of course, it leaves you wondering whether these poetic jibes affected the political landscape as purported or simply unsanctioned entertainment. Historians still debate whether the mocking verses were mere escapades or subtle weapons within the imperial court's dog-eat-dog world. You glance towards a corner where two poets exchange hushed banter, one grinning wide like the Cheshire Cat, teasing gently about an intricate weave of metaphors. They debate the finer points like chefs, refining their culinary masterpieces. This playful sparring is charmingly indulgent. And here you thought verbal combat was a modern invention. It seems sharp tongues have long been favored over sharp swords. Moving slightly closer, you overhear murmurs of ancient verses that mock the hairstyle of a political foe. A broom bent by cowardice, one poet declares, emphasizing each word with theatrical gestures. You imagine the phrase, visualizing sweeping strands bowed with melancholy compliance. It's an image, amusingly vivid, like painting an emperor with a nose that resembles an eggplant. The poet raises an eyebrow, catching your gaze, as if daring you to craft an interpretation of your own. You nod, appreciating the artistry of transforming common features into fantastic critiques. The atmosphere is intimate, yet grand warm in the flicker of candlelight, and you feel a sense of floaty weightlessness as humor dances cunningly through the air. Nearby, a woman nods off for a moment, her headdress threatening to topple with her subconscious nods, drawing a suppressed giggle from the other attendees. A pause in the proceedings as everyone adjusts to the sleepy intrusion, and just like that, the salon resumes, buzzing unfazed. Amid this lively court, you understand the power of words, of how the nuances of laughter, critique, and fellowship intertwine. There's a certain elegance in the jest high art, dressed as lowly satire. Curiosity piqued you. Brooke's small thoughts did these verbal jabs missing their mark, ever spare well-trained courtiers who knew how to laugh last. How does it feel to tuck a blow directed at you into your sleeve and brush it off as harmless? But wasn't that often the talent in these circles? The resilience to weather ridicule with the grace of a swan through rippled water. The evening moves on in a tempered cadence, words settling like falling petals. The poets pause and the attention shifts to another side of the room. You catch snippets of quieter conversations on politics wrapped in layers of poetic diplomacy. Here, listening becomes a dance of weaving ideas with agreements. You're lulled by a sense of serene satisfaction, as if this night is but a dream. You're living through a melody of voices softly discordant, yet harmoniously captivating. Each phrase floats by, consumed by the room's tapestry, much like smoke dissolves from a candle extinguished. As the words dissolve into lighter notes, the heavy drapery of the night begins to draw closed around you, a cloak draped gently over tired shoulders. You watch the poets, their eyes softening words, now whispered like the evening's final sigh before the dreams take over. With each passing verse, you find your eyelids growing heavier, and yet you're comforted, knowing stories like these are eternal, as ancient as the stones beneath your feet. Whether the spirited mockery comes to interrupt your thoughts another day, or if it simmers down to nothing more than tonight's entertainment, it doesn't burden your dreams. Under the gaze of 1,000 half-remembered poets, you slip into slumber. Perhaps you'll revisit the salons of tonight in dreams, a place where words sway the world gently to rest, rocking you to sleep with their timeless rhyme. You find yourself in the bustling streets of 17th century Paris, a city pulsing with whispers and intrigue, the kind that hides in the shadows of narrow cobblestone alleys. As you weave your way through the throng, you notice dimly lit salons, the kind where stories carried on a breath are more dangerous than swords. Tonight, you step into one of these salons, a place where the chatter and the snip of scissors blend like an ancient lullaby. You settle into a chair that's seen better days, its upholstery worn by the many stories it's borne witness to. The air is thick with the scent of hair tonics and the sweet decay of time. A soft-spoken stylist hovers behind you, scissors poised like the wings of a poised bird. You feel a tingle of anticipation. What secrets might be whispered into the mirror's reflection tonight? Here in the salon, stylists hold more than shears. They wield secrets like delicate lace. They cut through lies and weave truths in and out like fine strands of silk. There's one stylist you hear murmurs about, an old hand in the trade, whose ears are almost as sharp as his blades. His stories are legends in their own right. One time, he even saved a life by warning of a planned coup. You chuckle inwardly, wondering if perhaps the gossip is all part of the charm, an elaborate marketing strategy for a time. As cutthroat as his razor, the stylist snips a little too close for comfort, and you hold your breath nerves, tingling with each calculated slice. You catch a glint of amusement in his eyes, as if he knows you're both on the same page of this quiet, unspoken understanding. Rumors, he begins, voice a conspiratorial whisper, are the lifeblood of Paris. His scissors dance along your fringe as he speaks, each metallic click, a crisp punctuation to his words. Historians still debate whether La Fontaine actually spied for the crown through his fables. But he wasn't the only one playing both sides. You nod, watching as strands of your hair float to the ground like fallen autumn leaves. There's a rhythm to this place, the steady hum of voices trickling into your ears like a gentle stream. You feel the pull of comfort in this subtle chaos, your muscles relaxing into the well-worn chair, despite the secrets swirling around you. The stylist continues. There was a time when we stylists were the invisible couriers of the court. His voice drops lower. The Archduke himself once sat right where you do now, steel nerves, and all sharing more than just his hairstyle preferences. You imagine the Archduke carved from the same stuff as legends leaning back in this very chair. Did he too hold his breath as the shears hovered near his neck like you? You shiver at the thought, the gravity of history brushing your skin like a chill draft. Curious things happen when powerful men relax. The stylist muses. They let slip plans meant for plotting rooms, not powder rooms. He leans closer, his presence enveloping you like a cloak, intimate, clandestine. One word, one cut, and entire kingdoms can shift. He holds a mirror up behind you, an artful flourish, and you catch his gaze in the reflection. For a moment, you both share a silent understanding, a bond formed in this transitory space of scissors and secrets. You exhale slowly, letting go of your stiffness as he combs away the remnants of your past self. You wonder aloud, do you think they realized the power they held right here? The stylist smiles a knowing curve of his lips. Perhaps not at first, he says, his voice a soft breeze. But some. His next words are almost a sigh. Some learn to wield it like a hidden dagger. The candlelight flickers as you rise, the transformation complete. Each step away from the chair feels like shedding an old skin, the weight of secrets pulling from your shoulders. You pause at the door to glance back, catching the stylist's eye once more. A conspiratorial nod between allies of history's whispered tales. As you walk into the night, the cool Parisian air welcoming you back into its embrace, you carry with you the unexpected comfort of shared confidences. The city's shadows feel more familiar now, as if they've claimed you as one of their own. It's then you realize a little laugh, escaping you just like this quiet conspirator of a stylist, You're part of the tapestry, now voices intertwining in the eternal dance of secrets and echoes. You leave behind the salon's glow, each step cloaked in the serenity of a city where past and present waltz elegantly through time. In the shadowy corridors of a vast echoing palace, you find yourself surrounded by figures from the distant past, whispering secrets just out of reach. You roam the polished stone floors, your footsteps barely a whisper in the hallowed halls that reverberate with the echoes of history. Each hefty door carved with intricate tales of empires and gods opens to stories untold. And tonight it's the Eunuch's tale that beckons you forth. The Eunuch's simple twisted bun has always been a symbol of fascinating complexity. Functionally, it keeps the hair practically out of the way, suited for a life of service. Symbolically, it's a banner of allegiance whispering tales of loyalty and inner palace politics. As you pause, you can almost feel the weight of those whispered allegiances turning like the knots themselves. You find yourself walking into a courtyard, bathed in moonlight, the stones still warm from the day's sun. The air is dense with the scent of night-blooming jasmine, and a gentle breeze ruffles your hair, much like the subtle knots of those ancient guardians who roamed these very places. You smile, thinking how something as simple as the direction of a hair twist could signify one's shifting role amidst the fragmented tensions of court life. Historians still debate whether these intricate codes were universally understood or remained the province of those immersed in the deeper streams of palace intrigue. You consider the eunuchs' lives dedicated entirely to the whims of emperors and empresses, their loyalties changing as subtly as their hair knots. Do you ever think the knots talked back? You murmur to no one in particular, caught in a whimsical thought as you turn a corner, imagining the bun as a silent commentator on palace affairs. Maybe it did, exchanging secrets only the wise could decipher. A eunuch stands nearby, adjusting his bun with deft fingers, and you notice that the knot's direction subtly shifts, the power dynamic a rightward twist, indicating loyalty to one faction, a leftward one signaling another. Vivid colors and rich fabrics swathe him a vibrant contrast to the quiet elegance of his plain muted bun. You chuckle softly, realizing how even hairstyles can have a say in matters of the heart and throne. These knots are more than just hair. He confides, softly shifting his gaze to the distant stars. Each twist holds a story, a promise, a secret. You nod, appreciating the artistry and complexity involved, as if each bun were a cipher, unlocked only by those who dared to look. The winds rustle through the palace gardens, carrying with them the faint strains of a distant flute, melancholic and dreamy. The sound wraps around you like a lullaby, audibly gentle. In this moment of reflection, you almost trip over a stray step because a smooth narration always benefits from an unexpected tumble, right? Maybe you need one of those buns to keep everything in place too. Resting against the cool stone, you inhale deeply, feeling the calmness that comes with the mystery of history unfolding around you. Each breath soothes you, drawing you further into the comfort of this ancient world where even the simplest objects hold profound significance. One might imagine the eunuchs laughing quietly amongst themselves, playfully arguing, perhaps, over who among them could braid the most cryptic of knots, a subtle prank in a world of secrets. Moonlight ebbs across the courtyard, casting delicate shadows that weave across your path like the threads of an unfinished tapestry. You watch the patterns shift, each shadow telling its own story of court life, a dance of power and vulnerability written in strands of hair and whispered sides. Intrigue flows around you, gentle but palpable, as you close your eyes for a brief moment, letting the history envelop you. In the serene glow of the moon and the soft music of the night, you find comfort, perhaps even a bit of ambition, to decipher the knots yourself someday. As the night deepens and shadows lengthen the palace, and its echoing tales wrap themselves around you like a soft quilt, warm with history's whispers, you leave behind the silent intelligence of those twisted buns, feeling the tranquil weight of the past settle into your being. The possibilities maze through your mind like a braided tapestry, winding and intricate, drawing you further into the embrace of the story. Each detail is like a thread of silk, taut and vibrant with meaning. The journey weaves onward, each step a slide deeper into the world of those tightly wound knots, promising more mysteries as you wander the midnight halls. As you pause at the edge of an unknown doorway, you're reminded just how delicate the ties of fate can be, much like the elegant coils resting upon a eunuch's head. With a soft exhale, you let your shoulders relax, the world of twisted knots and secrets pulling you gently towards slumber. The palace holds its breath, cradling the night and all its conspiracies in a gentle night slumber. You drift now on the edge of dreams and history, feeling the peace of knowing there's always more to uncover, one soft twist at a time. In this world, knots may whisper secrets, yet they also bring silence. And in silence, a comfort that lulls you into rest. Sleep finds you easily in this quiet sanctuary, lulled by the simple elegance of twisted tales and ancient dreams waiting to be untangled. The air in the chamber is filled with the murmurs of a restless congregation, flickering candlelight casting ghostly shadows across the stone walls. You sit among them, the rough-hewn bench beneath you not quite lending itself to comfort. As another sermon unfolds, your fingers idly trace the grooves carved by decades of restless listeners, lulled somewhat by the routine of the priest's rhythmic oration. Your eyes wander until they land on him, the zealot in the aisle. He stands upright, perhaps too rigidly, his eyes alight not with serene contemplation, but with an almost manic intensity. His hair is long, unruly, cascading down in waves that catch even the dim light. You can see it happen almost in slow motion. He begins twisting a section of his hair, his fingers moving deftly as the rest of the congregation looks on, oblivious to the spectacle brewing right beside them. With a practiced flick of his wrist, he shapes his hair into the sign of the cross. You might wonder, did he rehearse this at home, or is this a product of pure passion? The thought tickles your mind just as the room's collective attention snaps towards him. For a moment, there's a palpable pause as if the very air holds its breath. And then it happens, a wave of awe envelops the gathering. Who knew hair could spark such fervor? The whispers begin to ripple through the congregation, a sea of undulating surprise and whispered exclamations. You lean in slightly, straining to catch fragments of hurried dialogues. Is this a blessed sign? Someone wonders aloud, barely above a whisper. Or madness itself? Another counters the skepticism, seeping into their voice like ink into parchment. Historians, you recall, debate whether this sort of outlandish demonstration was genuinely revered by the people, or if it served more as entertainment. After all, medieval life couldn't have been a constant thrill ride unless you counted the threat of boils as excitement. As the priest's voice falters, caught off guard by the visual interruption, the church itself seems to hold its breath. What follows is the sort of spectacle you imagine might be recounted for years, slipping into local legend. A trial, a spectacle in its own right, akin to theater, only with slightly more at stake. The air becomes thick with anticipation as word of a heresy trial spreads, and you, nestled among the murmuring crowd, feel a shiver of anticipation. What would become of this zealot who dared interrupt the solemnity of Sunday with his impromptu hairstyling session? The zealot is led away, murmurs trailing after him like a cloak. The dim light of the church somehow feels colder, the stone harder beneath you. The room settles once more, albeit with anticipation buzzing beneath the surface like a hive disturbed. You wonder if the zealot ever stops to think what led him to that moment, standing there with his hair twisted into a cross eyes, blazing with belief or defiance. Perhaps both. Or maybe there's a kernel of doubt, like an itch on the back of his neck that never quite goes away. The priest resumes his sermon, though this time with an edge of uncertainty, like notes scattered after a gust of wind. Your thoughts drift again, this time to the nature of belief and expression of the rules so firm, yet so easily upended. You wonder if history, much like now, teetered constantly on the edge of the absurd. As the congregation slowly disperses, your steps echo in the chamber. The air outside is crisp, laced with the soft hues of dusk. As you move through the courtyard, the zealot's trial lingers in your thoughts, a reminder of how a single flick of hair sent a ripple through what was moments ago a calm sea. You sit quietly in a centuries-old stone cathedral, the light filtered through stained glass windows, casting colorful shadows on the cold, worn floor. As the hum of quiet conversation echoes softly around you, you notice a painting above the altar. It depicts a bishop head, entirely devoid of hair, standing serenely in robes that ripple like an ocean frozen in time. The absence of hair on his head is not shocking in itself. It's what it symbolizes that stirs your curiosity. In the medieval world, sudden baldness was as much a subject of fascination as it was of fear. Some said it was a mark of sainthood, while others whispered it might be a divine punishment. You wonder if the bishop in the painting experienced an existential crisis when he awoke one morning to find his hair had forsaken him, leaving his scalp exposed to the elements, and undoubtedly a torrent of speculation. You lean closer to an elderly woman seated beside you, her fingers busy with a rosary. Why are there so many people gathering here? You ask, nodding toward the small crowd forming near the altar. She offers a knowing smile, lines crinkling beside her eyes. They believe that this bishop, she gestures with a gnarled finger toward the painting, had a vision that left him bald as an eggshell. You absently imagine whether eggshells in medieval times were bald before someone pointed this out as an analogy. The elderly woman continues. After that, people came from all over clipping bits of his remaining hair as relics. They thought it brought them closer to the divine. As she speaks, a young man approaches the altar with such reverence, it almost seems as though he expects the bishop's spirit to suddenly reappear, head glistening in the flickering candlelight. Historians still debate whether the bishop's baldness was truly a supernatural event or a conveniently timed lapse in personal grooming. You chuckle softly at the thought. Maybe he just had an unfortunate run-in with a sheep shearer after one too many mugs of ale. Though that explanation lacks the gravitas of divine intervention, doesn't it? Shifting your focus back to the scene around you, you feel the coolness of the stone beneath you seep up through your clothes, bringing a comforting earthiness to the holiness of the atmosphere. It's strange, you muse how seeking the divine often requires so much time spent on things as mundane as stubble or tufts of hair. The woman's whispery voice interrupts your thoughts. You know many came not just for the relics, but with hopes of miracles. They believe clipping a piece of his hair could cure their ailments or bring them blessings. It's hard not to smile indulgently at the thought. In an age before modern medicine, hope often took these curious forms, baldness as a beacon for the faithful or the desperate. Another thought flits through your mind. If mainstream society latched onto the idea that losing hair indicated holiness, then hairdressers would have been the gatekeepers to heaven. Yet those were different times, and you can't help but admire how history captures human imagination, holding on to these peculiar beliefs, much like a child clings to their favorite bedtime story. Turning your attention back to the present, you find yourself absorbed in the atmosphere created by centuries of faith and tradition, the gentle rise and fall of prayer, the scent of old wood mingling with melting wax, the echo of footsteps on the marble floor. Here past conversations become tangible, hanging in the air like unspoken promises, and you let yourself sink into this world where divine acts and human interpretation dance endlessly together. As the crowd begins to thin and the cathedral grows quiet once more, you stand brushing off your robes. You smile at the elderly woman who nods in acknowledgement. Stepping outside, you are met with a soft breeze that carries the faintest scent of lavender from a nearby field. The sun is setting, trailing pastel colors across the skyline, and you pause to savor the sight. In this tranquil moment, it occurs to you how stories of bald bishops and their clipped relics have somehow woven their way into the fabric of this place. The air, the land, and even the people are forever marked by tales of sainthood and simple human wonder. You take a deep breath, letting the peace of the evening flow through you, feeling the day's tensions fade with each exhaled breath. With one last look at the ancient stones of the cathedral, you can't help but marvel at humanity's unique gift to weave tales that stretch from the humdrum of daily life to the divine and everything in between. You step onto the path, leading away from the cathedral, your thoughts drifting like the gentle waft of incense through the narrow streets. As the once glittering city of Byzantium fades into history's shadows, the air around you carries whispers of its grandeur. You wander through the remnants of what was guided only by the faint echoes of tales well loved and long forgotten. Each step across the smooth, worn stones of an ancient plaza leads deeper into the heart of a bygone era, where wigs curled like waves of the Bosphorus, and hairstyles spoke in silent dialogues. The evening sky casts Byzantium in hues of deep blue and shimmering gold, the kind of beauty even the city's fabled mosaics strive to capture. As you traverse the quiet streets, your eye catches what remains of a grand mural depicting Emperor Justinian, his head adorned with a gleaming diadem. The once vivid colors now blur into a symphony of time-weathered tones, reminding you of the changes that sweep through human hands and kingdoms alike. You think about how hairstyles once held stories and secrets, like a locked diary etched into the strands of each individual's crowning glory. In Byzantium, a simple parting could denote stature alliance, or even defiance a reality check for anyone who thought fashion was just about looking good. Historians still debate whether Emperor Justinian's elaborate coiffure inspired admiration or incited envy among his contemporaries. You chuckle softly to yourself, imagining Empress Theodora eyeing her husband's hair with a mix of marital pride and playful critique. Darling, perhaps you're not the only jewel of the empire today. Passing through a dimly lit archway, a delicate scent of olive oil and lavender drifts by ghostly remnants of ointments used to tame and perfect imperial hairdos. The pathway beyond leads you to a plaza where musicians once played to entertain crowds, gathered beneath elegant arches. You half expect to hear the faint strum of a lyre gilding the air, but the only sound comes from the rustling leaves, murmuring of past grandeur. One pause here beneath an old stone column lets the day's cacophony ease from your thoughts. You run your fingertips along the cool, weathered surface, pondering how many others have stood just where you are now, eyes upturned to a fading empire. You wonder if they too whispered poems and love ballads to capture and preserve the beauty and heart of their world. The mosaic-strewn floor beneath your feet tells stories that surpass any single voice. Each tile carefully placed by hands, long stilled glints softly in the moonlight. You smile again, thinking of historians faced with the daunting task of unraveling these tales from fragmented stones and fading colors, each gap a doorway to endless speculation. A gentle breeze passes sifting through your hair like a playful muse, teasing the strands into patterns that might have spoken volumes in another age. It reminds you of the time a just right curl could mean the difference between congratulations or consternation in Byzantine society. You grin at the thought, marveling at how fashion often demands navigation as deft as any political alliance. The stones seem to echo under your tread, a cadence immersed in the weight of history's steps. You reflect on the human persistence to recount stories, to capture them in whispers, in copper-haired girls selling wares in the reluctant king preparing for court. A world where a parted hairstyle can be the sole legacy of a forgotten soul. A sudden burst of laughter, soft and airy, like the fall of cherry blossoms, reaches your ears from nowhere and everywhere. It's as though the past chuckles knowingly at your musings, amused by how readily you weave their world into the cozy tapestry of your own. You pause again, letting the calm embrace the night, and a passing cloud drapes the plaza in a fleeting shadow. In the solitude that follows you, imagine the unseen legacies left in each style, each curl, each parting. They are the cadences of victories and losses of trysts, stolen beneath turrets, stories told silently through strands of hair, woven like the tapestries of time. As the gentle darkness settles around you, so does a tranquility soothing in its endless expanse. The city of Byzantium, with its eloquent silences and whispered histories, encourages you to drift softly deeper into this shared dream. The world hushes at last. A midnight tapestry spun by moonlit strands, gently braided into the night's embrace. Your imagination surrenders to sleep's embrace, where Byzantium's echoes will tread gently through your dreams, as lightly and as knowingly as they've wandered these ancient stones.